Hey, book pals, this is Kirsten with the Spine of Motherhood, and I'm so happy you chose to listen to the podcast today. Two friends together talking about books. What could be better? So grab your drink, get cozy, and happy listening. Hey, book pals, welcome back to the podcast. And today we're chatting with my beautiful, lovely friend, Heaven. Heaven, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Heaven. I am a book reviewer, content poster, XYZ. I started on TikTok, primarily moved over to Instagram as Heavenly Reads. So yeah, I'm very excited to be here on the podcast talking with Kirsten about some books today.
Yay! I'm excited to have you. And did we become friends on TikTok? Is that where
I think so.
Okay,
yeah. I'm pretty sure that's where we met.
And then we did a panel at a convention last year together for the first time for all of us. That was really fun.
Yeah, that was awesome.
At AuthorCon, and we were just talking about AuthorCon a second ago. But yeah, so yeah, we've been friends for like 2 years now, I think. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I don't post on TikTok much either anymore. So it's mostly Instagram that I'm at, but yeah. So what are you currently drinking? That's what I always ask people.
I'm currently drinking water. I am staying hydrated today.
I love it. No, that makes me happy. I have water, and then I also have a protein shake. That's my breakfast. So that's where I'm at. But I always have water, so I feel you.
What flavor protein shake are you doing today?
I tried some Alani ones, and this one's fruity cereal, and it honestly just tastes like a little bit sweeter milk. It doesn't really taste like much, so kind of sad about that, but I'm going to drink it. But usually I drink this one that's like a latte, like a coffee flavor. So yeah, that's my usual protein shake. But also, what are you currently reading?
I just started reading Summer Never Ends by Judith Sonnet last night because I think she said that the sequel is coming out in May or June this year. So I figured I would finally read that. And then I just started The Haunting of Ashburn House by Darcy Coates a couple days ago, but I haven't gotten too far into it just yet.
I love that. I haven't read Darcy Coates yet, so...
This is only my second book by her, but I've been wanting to get into her because a lot of people talk about her and she seems very cozy horror, which I feel like I could use every now and then. So this is my effort to get into her.
Well, I like cozy horror as well. I think Asia and I talked about Rachel Harrison.
Yes.
I love her because her books are more horror light, but they're very cozy for me for some reason. So...
Yeah, when you guys were talking about how her books are cozy horror, I was snapping because I definitely agree. I feel like she's very cozy horror for sure.
Well, and also Judith, I have The Home, I think it was called. One of her newest ones. I have it, the ebook, but lately been so hard for me to read any kind of ebooks or physical books because I'm always busy. So, audiobooks have been my go-to. And I just finished The Unworthy by Agustina Bastarrica. And, I liked that one a lot. Very weird, but...
I just picked that one up at Barnes & Noble last week. So, I've been seeing a lot of hype around that one.
Yeah, I love Tender as the Flesh. And I think this is similar in that it's her style of writing is very, kind of surreal-ish. I don't know how to explain it, but taking real life stuff, a real setting, but making it kind of fever dream-ish. And that's how The Unworthy is. But it did take me, I'll say, I was a little bit I might be too stupid to read this book, the first 20%. And then I got really into it, and yeah, it was just very, very heartbreaking, very intense book. So I think you'll like it when you get to it.
And it's like religious horror, right? Like from what I understood from the plot description, it seems like it like takes place in a convent.
Yeah,
or something.
yeah, and I went into it completely blind. Literally, I have Everend, which is like Scribe's like audiobook service, kind of like Audible. So I pay for like 3 books I can unlock every month, and I saw it on there, and I was just like, I'm gonna read it, and I didn't even look at the synopsis. And it is religious, but it's like set during like in the future, so kind of dystopian.
Ooh.
Kind of like Tender as the Flesh.
Okay.
So there's like this, like the world is, you can't find food as easily, water's not clean, the weather's all messed up, like that kind of thing. But it's in a convent, yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's like, I love dystopian and I love religious horror, so that book sounds like it's going to be like 100% up my alley.
Yeah, I think you'll like it. So I just finished that one, and now I am reading All the Hearts You Eat by Haley Piper.
Oh, yes.
So I'm about 50% into that one, and I'm doing audiobook and physical, like back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
But the audiobook is a full cast, so it's
nice.
Yeah, interesting to listen to. But yeah, that's like a queer vampire kind of story, so it's fun.
And that's her like newest release, right?
No, I think she has a Game in Yellow. I don't know if that's published yet or not, but it's the newest that's out. Yeah, I think. Okay. I try to read everything she writes as pretty quickly after it comes out, but
yeah, she's amazing.
She is. I talked about that with Asia. I'm like, I don't want to mention Haley because she's gonna get a restraining order, but I love her. So yeah. All right. So today, speaking of Haley and women we love in horror, we're talking about women in horror again, and I'm so excited because I know you kind of like took notes on Asia's chat, so we kind of don't have as much overlap, which I wouldn't have cared if we did, because everybody needs multiple like hyping up moments. But
yeah,
Asia covered so many people that I was like, oh no, that's everybody. So I'm excited to see who you have to talk about. If you want to go first, talk about the first like author or book. I don't know which way you want to do it, but the first person you want to talk about.
Sure, yeah. So I kind of like took notes like from the way that you and Asia did it. Like I kind of listed some specific books by authors, and then I listed like at the end like other like author shout outs.
Okay,
I liked how you guys did that. I thought that was really nice.
Okay.
So my first one that I prepared is Feel Her Pain by Nat Whiston. This was a book that I found on godlist.com, which is like a website that you can get really cheap extreme horror books on, which I really love. And this is a book about like a woman who has endometriosis, and her body like starts to communicate with her and basically gives her the option to live pain-free. And she's like, heck yeah, I'm going to do that. But then she ends up like having to kill people and like eat their organs to continue living without pain.
Oh, Lord.
And like, so like it goes downhill really, really fast and it gets really crazy. But I really liked it because I am also a woman who lives with chronic pain. So like she really captured what it's like, having that experience, the way that it makes you feel about yourself, and also the way that like the medical system treats women and their pain. So that book really, really spoke to me. I just read that one like maybe 2 months ago, and oh my God, I loved it so much.
Oh, I need to that sounds like something I would really love. And it's Nat Whiston? Is that what you said?
Mm-hmm. Nat Whiston.
That's cool. Does she have any other work do you know, or?
I'm not sure. I did find her on Instagram and followed her not too long ago, but I haven't looked to see if she had anything else.
I'm gonna go follow her.
I just like happened to see the title when I was scrolling on Godlist, and I was like, well, that sounds like something I would want.
Okay, I'll have to check her out too. So that is exciting. I love women-centered horror, even if it's like body horror, pregnancy horror, like stuff like that. Like, I really love that. So, yeah, I'm gonna check it out. I guess to add to extreme horror, I will mention C.M. Guidroz.
Yes.
So I read Bittersweet Chocolate in February and loved it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I read It's Me, Charlie.
Yes, that book is so crazy.
So I'm just going to give a disclaimer to anybody listening that likes to take recs during these chats. That is a very messed up book. So if you don't like gross stuff and disturbing stuff, don't read it. But it's fast, it's fun. If as fun as something like that can be, it's really gross. Yeah, I loved it. So C.M. Guidroz is another. I think she has other books I haven't read yet. So
I think I have Love and Formaldehyde by her, like, on my Kindle, but I haven't read it just yet. I think that's like a horror romance book, I want to say.
Okay. Yeah, so check out C.M. Guidroz. She's really sweet and pretty active on socials. And yeah, if you just really want something nasty to read, It's Me, Charlie is perfect. And I know it's a thing like where some people don't like short horror, but I like the horror that you can read the book in like one day or something. Like it's just a lot kind of a novella, but even shorter than a novella sometimes, like 100 pages or something. Like, I don't know. I really like that. So
I've been really getting into novellas lately. Like, I really can appreciate when like an author can do what they need to do in like less than 200 pages. I really love that.
Agreed. And it's like kind of satisfying to be able to finish something that quickly and then get the like that satisfaction of finishing it, and you don't you feel like you read a whole story, but it's not like 400 pages, you know?
Yeah.
So I love that. So who is the next one you wanted to talk about?
So we were talking about Judith's sonnet before we started recording, and so I'm going to talk about Judith's sonnet. She started as like extreme horror, but she has kind of transitioned over into doing more quiet horror. I think I saw recently on Facebook she said that she's kind of like done with writing extreme horror. But her first book that I ever read by her was Psych Ward Blues, which is like an apocalyptic religious horror novella, and it also has like other short stories within it. And that book just like blew my mind. It was so good and just like a really different view of the apocalypse. I love everything that Judith has written that I've read so far. She's just like one of my go-to authors.
I'm sad I haven't. I think she was at AuthorCon in St. Louis. And I was gonna go maybe, but then I ended up not being able to go, and I was sad because I really wanted to meet her, because I love her as well. And yeah, the first book I ever read by her was Tapewormin.
I just got that one.
That is a rough book too. It's another one that you can read in like a day, and like it's satisfying, but it's pretty nasty. And then the next one I read by her was No One Rides for Free, which is like another horrible, disgusting one. But I enjoyed it, even though it's so like bleak and nasty. She does what she does well.
Yes, 100% agree.
And I would say in that same vein, I don't see this person talked about a lot, but Eve Harms, I love. And I read, oh my gosh, of course my brain just like literally, I lost it. I'll think of it in a second, but I read her like first novella, and now she has another one coming out. I think it's called, man, I need to be more prepared. Yeah, so Transmuted and Chasers by Eve Harms. Those are both ones I would recommend. But I love Eve. She's super sweet, and I love following her on Instagram. So yeah, that just made me think of that. Another splatterpunk person. I know not everybody likes splatterpunk, so
yeah,
I try to kind of mix it up.
I try not to list too many because I do read a decent amount of splatterpunk and extreme horror, but I understand that it's not for everybody.
Yeah, and I'm not like so it's funny because when we had I think about this a lot, and it's so interesting to me because I'm a nerd and I like to think about how people have their opinions and their preferences and how different we all are. But like when we had the panel at AuthorCon, and Eve was like, Eve only reads like more extreme stuff, you know, which I love because it gives a voice and you know, somebody to uplift these stories that not everybody's reading. So that I love that. But I read like extreme, like maybe once a month or once every other month. So I love it, but it's not my go-to.
Yeah.
And so it's fun to see, like, I don't know, the differences and within our community. There's just, it's so varied. There's so much variance in how people read.
Yeah, like everybody has their thing, which I really love.
Yeah, no, I love it. And it's funny because I don't think I read much extreme. I do read extreme, but not a lot. And then there's someone like Eve who reads only extreme. And then there's people that read horror, but they only read like what I would consider light horror, you know? Like Grady Hendrix maybe, and that's like the extent of it. And then I'm over here reading like Mayfly, which is way more intense. And I'm like, man, you gotta like read some more, something a little bit more disturbing. But they're like, no, you know, I prefer just like, you know, and that's fine. But I think it's so interesting to see how everybody is with horror. So yeah, sorry for that little tangent, but I did want to include some extra extreme or splatterpunk authors in there. So you've got C.M. Guidroz, Judith Sonnet, Eve Harms, and then you said Nat Whiston. So yeah, check those ladies out if you like your book's real disturbing and gross. I don't know if that first one you mentioned is gross, but I'm assuming it probably was. If it was, yeah,
it gets really gross.
Okay, good. Okay, and then do you have someone else you wanted to talk about?
Tananarive Due.
Oh yeah,
she is like, she's the queen. Like in my mind, like that is like the queen of horror.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed.
Oh no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying I agree. You go ahead.
Yeah, she's awesome. And she does a lot of like horror documentaries too. Like I don't know if you have Shudder, the streaming service, but she is always in their like shows. Like they have like the 101 Scariest Movie Moments. They just did one where it was like each episode was like about a certain type of horror movie, and she would pop up and I'm like, oh my God, there she is.
Yeah, kind of fangirling a little.
Yes, I'm like, oh my gosh, these people don't even know like they're in the presence of the queen.
No, I talked about her with Sylvester Barzy for Black Horror, and I was like, you know, how can we have this podcast and not mention Tananarive Due? Like,
right,
she is the queen. Like, yeah, and so I've read obviously the Reformatory, and I read the Between, and I haven't read anything else yet, but I have a lot of pretty much all of her backlog on my TBR. So. Yeah, love her.
Her book, The Return, was also really good too.
Ooh, okay. I'll have to bump that one up because she writes really like cinematically, if that makes sense. I don't know.
Yeah.
Almost like a movie. Like The Reformatory, like when I was reading it, I was like, this is gonna make an amazing movie.
Yeah, I was really like put off by how long it is because I did the audiobook for that and I think it was like 21 hours long and I was like, okay, this is going to be a big commitment, but like her writing is so hypnotic that it felt like it flew by and I didn't want it to be over when it was over.
Agreed. No, I listened to the audiobook too, and that's how I can tell too with like if I don't have a physical book of it, but I read the audiobook and it's over like 12 hours, I'm like, holy shit, this is so long. Like I think Stephen King, you know, I read all the Dark Tower books and those are like 700, 800 900 page books.
Yeah.
And they're like 24-hour audiobooks. I'm like, oh man, this is going to take me forever. So, but the Reformatory, like, it is long. It is a chunker. But I feel like it was necessary to get everything in there that she needed to get in there. I don't know.
100%. Yeah. I tell people do not be, like, put off by the length because it is 100% worth it.
It's not, yeah. It's not a chore to get through. At all.
Not at all.
So, yeah. So, it's Tananarive Due. If you're not reading her, again, I've already said this in my chat with Sylvester, but if you're not reading her, your horror, like, experience is not well-rounded if you are not reading Tananarive Due, or you have not read her. So, Yeah. Good one to mention. I took screenshots of things I've read recently to talk about who I'm going to talk about next. And the next person I wanted to mention is Allison Rumfit.
Yes.
Because surprisingly, I don't see Allison mentioned a lot either. Not as much. It's usually in like the list for like queer horror, which is amazing, but like also like, hey, Allison Rumfit's a woman in horror. Let's mention her there too. And I read Brainwryms. Oh my god. I don't know if you've read that one, but
I haven't, but I've read Tell Me I'm Worthless, so I know, like, she writes some insane stuff.
I have Tell Me I'm Worthless, but I haven't read it. It's just one of those books that, like, there's no reason I haven't read it. I just keep, like, forgetting it every time. But Brainwryms, I read an arc of it on NetGalley, and I don't think I've ever felt so physically sick reading a book as I have with that book.
Yeah. So it gets like, I would assume like a book called Brainwryms gets disgusting. But
so the main character has like a parasite fetish.
Oh.
Yeah.
Good for her, I guess.
And it's like, she meets up with these people online that have all similar fetishes, but also there's like these other things going on in her life outside of that, and then there's something going on with like the fetish community, it explores a lot of heavy subjects like being trans, being queer, identity, but also this nasty like parasite loving group of people.
Yeah.
So yeah,
that's kind of how Tell Me I'm Worthless was too. Like, it's a heavy book to get through. I wouldn't say it's like as like body horror disgusting, but it's definitely like a disturbing read for sure.
Is it a haunted house one?
Kind of, yes.
Okay.
Like it was like a group of friends that went to a house, and something bad happened in the house, and they're all like dealing in the aftermath of it. Yeah, it's a rough one for sure.
Well, I need to prioritize it soon because I've been wanting to read it like since it came out. Mm-hmm. It just, like I said, it's always like something else comes out and then I get distracted and then I never go back to it. So yeah, if you haven't read Allison Rumfit, here's your recommendation from Heaven for Tell Me I'm Worthless and from me for Brainwryms, because yeah, I don't think she gets enough hype and she needs it.
Agreed.
Yeah. What's the next person you wanted to mention?
I have Cynthia Pelayo. She does like horror books, but she also does a lot of horror poetry, which that's how I got into her.
Yeah, I have one of her poetry books, Into the Forest. Is that what it is?
Yes, that's the one that I literally put like a note on. That's the first book of hers that I ever read. Which, for those who are not familiar, this is like a true crime poetry collection. It's like a collection of poems inspired by real cases of missing and murdered women. And like the way that it's set up is like each poem obviously is inspired by the case, and then at the end of the poem it reveals like who it's about, and also includes the tip line for who you can contact if you do know something. And I thought that was just like a really interesting like format for that subject matter.
Oh yeah, no, I have that collection as well, and it's one of those. I have a lot of poetry collections, and I'll like pick it up and read one or two things and then put it back. I never read like all the way through. I need to get better at it, but when I saw that's what that was about, I was like, oh man, sign me up. I have to get this one. Like, that's so unique. And I love that she did that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it mainly, like, a lot of the poems are focused on BIPOC women, which I think was great because, as we all know, like, the media does not show a lot of care and attention to those cases. So I thought that it was really good for her to use her platform to highlight those cases of those missing women for sure.
Agreed. I actually, like, I love Cynthia. I've seen her at AuthorCon. Was she there last year? Or the year before?
I don't think she was there last year.
So it must have been the year before. And she's so beautiful. I know doesn't have anything to do with her writing, but when I saw her, I was like, oh my gosh, she's like just like a model type of look.
Yeah.
I don't know. And she just seems really sweet. I'm trying to remember, did she do the Loteria, or was that?
Yes.
Okay, so I have that one, and I also struggle with short story collections where I can't read it all the way through because I don't know why. And so that's a short story collection that's based off the Mexican game Loteria.
Okay.
And so each chapter is one of the cards. And it has like a story, and a lot of the stories are, I'm assuming probably most of them are based in like Mexican folklore and mythology. Which I really love. I fuck with mythology and folklore very heavily. Yeah. So I got that one and I read like 5 or 6 stories, and then I got distracted and went back and read a couple more. And again, I probably should have just read it like all the way through because now I don't remember that much. But
yeah,
yeah, that's the book that I first read from her is Loteria. So yeah,
she has another really cool book. It's called Crime Scene, where like it's a story, like it's a fictional story, but it's told through poems. So like it was a really cool like way for her to tell that story too.
So she seems to have this unique way of like getting the stories out in a very creative way, but like impactful way.
Yes. Because, like, when I read Into the Forest and all the way through, there actually was a case of a little girl. Her name was Melody McCoy. She went missing 3 miles from where I grew up in Baltimore, and I had never heard of her case before. And when I read her poem, like, I literally just, like, sat there and had to, like, sit with that for a minute because I was like, this case happened not far from where I grew up, and I had not a clue. Like, that in itself just felt really heavy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really appreciate that she's able to make that kind of impact with her writing.
Agreed. I don't know if she has a couple other like, I think she has a book that's like in a series, something Chicago or something. I don't know if
The Children of Chicago. That one was really good too. It reminded me of Candyman almost.
Yeah, I've seen that one. Then there's like a second one, right? To that one?
I think so. I can't remember what it's called, but I think there is a sequel.
Okay, yeah. It's again, my brain is like fried, and I have all these books on my list, and then I forget what they're called and who they're by. So I do know that though, and I want to read it. And I know I don't know if she won a Stoker or she was nominated for a Stoker like last year. I think she did. She won.
Did win because I remember her posting like the coolest photos of her like posing with the Stoker Award.
That makes me so happy. I'm like secondhand, like, oh my God, like she's my friend or something. I'm excited for her. She's not my friend, but like, you know, I'm like,
she doesn't even know who I am, and I'm out here like, yes, girl.
yeah, I'm hyping her up, like, oh my God, I'm so proud of you. Like, yeah. So Cynthia Pelayo, if you haven't read her, check out all her work, but specifically her poetry. I think she's really, really fantastic poet. So, yeah. The only other one I really wanted to talk about, like, I've never read anything else by this author, but Sara Gran, so she wrote Come Closer, and it's one of my favorite possession stories ever. I don't know why, it just hit, like, it creeped me out. Oh, I loved it. And she has the most precious substance, I think, but I haven't read that one. I think that one's, like, more erotic, the Book of the Most Precious Substance, something like that. But have you read Come Closer?
Yeah, I read that one a couple years ago.
Did you like it?
I liked it. It very much was one of those where, like, you flip-flop back and forth on what you think is actually happening.
Yeah. No, and the ending of that, I was like, what the hell?
Yeah.
But it just did, like, possession's one of my favorite subgenres of horror. And I love demonic stuff, and it's hard sometimes for me to get into some of it because I'm like, this is so like stereotypical or hokey or whatever. And not in the way of like My Best Friend's Exorcism where it's meant to be like campy and funny like that, but just like, I don't know. And so Come Closer felt like a legitimate person that's struggling with demonic possession. like, it felt more realistic to me. I don't know.
Yeah, because that's like a subgenre that like it's really interesting, but like it can be done the same way over and over and over.
Yeah.
So it's nice when you find like a book that does it in a different way.
Yeah. And I think the demon, which it's been like 3 years since I've read that, but the demon in that one is like a woman, right?
From what I remember, yes.
Yeah.
It's also been a really long time since I read it.
I think that stuck out to me because most of the time the demon is a man or a male form, you know, and I love that Sara Gran decided to make it like a feminine demon. So yeah, that is another person I don't like. I think Come Closer is pretty well known now at this point in the horror community, but I think it's easy to forget that she writes other stuff and she is, you know, a woman in horror. So definitely check her out. And if you love demons, not really love demons, but if you love to read about demons, check out Come Closer because I liked it a lot. Did you have anybody else you wanted to talk about?
Let me look. I had like a little list.
You can read through your list if you want. I will mention one more before you start that. Just my last one I was thinking of. I've mentioned this person a bazillion times because I'm a super fan, but T. Kingfisher is one of my favorites. She is a fantastically talented writer, and not even in horror, but like she has her horror books, she has fantasy, she has all kinds of stuff, and she's just a really talented writer. But like the Twisted Ones and the Hollow Ones. Wait, that's the Hollow Ones, right? Yeah, I think. Oh, I don't remember now. I'm like mixing two things together. What else did she write? What Moves the Dead?
The bunnies on the cover, right? Like
yeah, I think that's what Moves the Dead.
Yes.
A House with Good Bones, like just a bunch of stuff. She cranks out books, and so if you're more into horror, like not as disturbing, not as heavy, and maybe with some fantasy elements mixed in, I love T. Kingfisher. So that's just another one to check out. But you go ahead and tell us your list of people you wanted to shout out.
I have Tiffany D. Jackson. She writes a lot of YA horror. The one book that I always recommend that like people who have followed me probably are like, please shut up about this book, is The Weight of Blood, which is like a Carrie retelling, but in the modern times, and like race is the motivating factor in that story. I loved that book so much, and I'll shout it from the rooftops, and I don't care who tells me to stop.
I love that.
And then there was another book, Sisters of Manchester by Selene Kapsaki. This was a book that I found on, I think, Kindle Unlimited. I just came across it, and the cover was really pretty. It's about like a young trans woman who's on the run from her abusive ex, and she enters a women's shelter, and she ends up joining a coven. And it's very much like girl power, reminded me of The Craft. It was like women coming together to support each other and like understand their own inner power, which it was just amazing.
I love that. Yeah, that sounds, I haven't heard of that one before, so I'll have to add that one to my list.
It was great. Candace Nola, I don't know if you guys mentioned her before, but she's also really good. I think she does some extreme horror, and some non-extreme horror.
I love Candace. She's super sweet.
Yeah. And then some other shout outs. I had Brianna Morgan. I know you guys talked about her before, but Brianna's my girl, so I had to bring her up too. And then RJ Powell. She has released a couple of extreme horror books too. I feel bad. I feel like I'm only talking about like extreme horror.
No. And hey, sometimes, like I said, I don't think, you know, we have to mix it up. So we've got some good balance in here. I think you're fine.
Yeah. And then Ivy Tholen, a lot of her books are on Kindle Unlimited. She does like some kind of like retro slasher type stories, which is really fun. And Laurel Hightower. I can't remember if you brought her up.
We didn't. I love Laurel.
But I know you and Tony talked about her during the Appalachian horror.
Because she has that. She has that, like, you know, that particular vibe of the Appalachian, kind of in the forest, mountains kind of vibe. But yeah, I haven't read Below still. I need to read Below. I really do, especially since I love cryptids and stuff like that. But
I think you'll really like it. It's pretty creepy, I'll say.
Yeah, and Laurel's really cool. Like I've watched her on a couple panels at AuthorCon, and she's super smart and interesting, and yeah. So yeah.
Because was she on the Appalachian panel? Because I know I saw her on a panel at AuthorCon, but I can't remember which one she was on.
I think she might have been on both, but I know she was on one with Tony and John. What's his name? Langan, the fisherman guy that wrote the fisherman.
Yes. I think it was like a folklore, maybe. Yeah.
So they were talking about like why folklore scares us and stuff like that. And it was really interesting to hear from all these people. Her and Tony both are pretty funny. She's kind of funny in the way, like Tony just says really crazy stuff, but Laurel's like kind of quiet and serious about it, but that she says funny stuff and you're like, oh my gosh. So yeah.
Yeah, I remember her introducing herself on that panel, and I can't remember like the full way that she said it, but it basically was like, tell me like 5 women that feel like they can trust you in a room. And I was like, that's my girl.
Yeah. Yeah, no, she's amazing. If you haven't read Laurel, you should. I have, the one I read is, and I literally just forgot the name of it, the one where her son dies and... Crossroads, yeah. I love that one, like ripped my heart out and stomped on it.
Yes. That one's like Pet Cemetery in a way.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah. That you're looking for. But that one, oh my God, it was painful.
It was, yeah. As a parent, I was like, yeah. So, I'm trying to think of if anybody after I filmed with or recorded with Asia, I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot to mention like this person, and now I'm like having a complete brain fart. And it's funny because like I know it's Women's History Month but I read women all the time.
Yeah.
So I should probably prioritize women this month, but honestly I just read women as much as possible. Like if a woman wrote it, I'm reading it kind of thing.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
I kind of had the same thing during like Black History Month when like I shared like my recommendations for books. I was like, well, like, I read diversely year round. Like I don't just, keep it to that 1 month where I'm prioritizing.
No, yeah.
It's really important to read diversely
all the time.
All the time.
Yeah, and I guess just to echo what I said with Asia, like, and what I said with Sylvester about Black horror, if you're not seeking out women in horror and promoting them and reading them, your other people are not going to see them and read them. And so even though it's easy for some people to say like, well, I don't look at the person that's writing the book, like I don't look at what gender they are or what color they are. Like I get that, I guess, but like you should be. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I've seen some really interesting discussion on Threads about that, which I don't know if you're on Threads, but that's like the Instagram version of Twitter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of like people going back and forth about that.
No,
but seems like that's a lot in like the romantasy, like that genre. I think they have a lot of infighting about that. I feel like horror is such a diverse community of writers and readers that I really feel like it's not hard to read diversely.
Yeah. No, yeah. I had a conversation one time with somebody that was like, I was just talking about, like, it'd be cool if we could mention women in horror or talk about women in horror. And they were like, I don't really read any women in horror. And I'm like, okay. That's
but
weird.
Like, how?
Yeah, because, like, have you never read Shirley Jackson? Like, that's like...
She's who I forgot to mention. I literally have a Haunting of Hill House tattoo on my arm.
That's amazing. I love Shirley Jackson.
I was trying to focus on like indie.
Well, no, yeah, I think, but also I think that the indie camp couldn't have existed without maybe those original, ladies that kind of
came before.
Yeah, made the way for us, and Shirley Jackson is absolutely one of them. I'm obsessed. Yeah, because we were talking about like older horror, and they're like Edgar Allan Poe. Like, yeah, I fuck with Edgar Allan Poe, but also Shirley Jackson. Come on now, like what? Yeah. So
I'm biased, but V.C. Andrews. I literally am named after a V.C. Andrews book. So like,
that's amazing.
Yeah,
I love that. I didn't know that was where your name was from. I've actually never read V.C. Andrews.
I mean, like, her books, like, they're very, like, gothic. Like, My Sweet Audrina is one that I always recommend to people. I know everybody knows her for Flowers in the Attic. which is also really good. I feel like that was like a coming of age thing. Like you had to read Flowers in the Attic when you were too young to read it.
Yeah.
It's like a rite of passage.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually like never have read it, but I feel like because of culture and stuff, I know like the vibe.
Yeah.
That
you're
people,
like, I know what happens. So
yeah. No, I might read it one day because I've gotten more where I used to be pretty against like, not that V.C. Andrews is classic because it's not, but like I didn't want to read older stuff for a long time. And I'm getting more where I will dabble in older things.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it does help you have a better perspective of modern fiction. Mm-hmm. So I will one day probably get around to it. But yeah, no, Shirley Jackson, like I was telling somebody The Lottery, which is a short story by her, is like a master class in writing a short story that is really powerful and impactful in a short amount of time.
Yeah, because that's like effed up.
It is. And people don't talk about it as much, and that's a freaking scary story. Like, it terrified me.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and we have always lived in the castle. I don't think that's necessarily considered horror, but that book gave me some really creepy vibes when I was reading it, so...
And it gets insane by the end, too. Like, the way that things spiral out of control, like, with the family and with the town around them.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people didn't pick up on this, but, like, A Head Full of Ghosts by Paul Tremblay, oh my gosh, I can't speak, is, like, very much, like, it feels like it's heavily inspired by that book.
Like, I posted about that on Facebook, and most people kind of agreed with me, but some people are like, what are you talking about? I finished A Head Full of Ghosts, and I was like, so we're not going to talk about how A Head Full of Ghosts is basically just, we have always lived in the castle.
Like, the character's name is literally Mary.
Yeah. And I want to ask him, like, if I ever see him again, because I met him last year, but, like, did you, like, base this off of that, or was this coincidental? Because that's a big coincidence, if so.
Because when you get to the, like, one part, if you know, you're like, oh, so this is, we have always lived in the castle.
So it's, like, yeah, no, I think it's, like, a modern version of We've Always Lived in the Castle. And I liked it.
Yeah, that's fine. Like, I loved A Head Full of Ghosts. It's one of my favorite books, but it just makes me laugh. I'm like, oh my gosh, I've seen this film before.
That's funny. Well, and yeah, Shirley Jackson was like, so I guess to circle back to what I was saying to kind of close us out here is that, like, I'm not telling you how to live your life, but if you don't seek out women in horror or women in general that write, and you don't read them, then you're not helping get those out, especially if you're a reviewer. Maybe if you're a regular person that just reads for fun, maybe it's not as serious, but even still, like, you gotta include women in your reading and in your reviewing and your recommending, because we know Stephen King already. Like, love him, but we don't know, Stephen King doesn't need us out here recommending his books. So, yeah. And same with indie, like, in general. Like, we know the big people, Stephen King, all that. We need people to read the little people and to recommend them.
Yeah. 100%. And not to sound, like, self-important as, like, content creators, but, like, people like you and I and, like, others in the community who we do have a little bit of a following. And there are people who look at what we're posting to get recommendations. Like, it is important that we're making sure that we're boosting people who maybe don't have a lot of eyes on their books already. It's really important to do that. It's kind of like I would say, like, the onus is on us almost.
Yeah.
You know, that's kind of what you need to do, like, as a reviewer, for sure.
No, it's like it's our responsibility almost, mm-hmm. I feel like. And, you know, I decided about a year or so ago that I was going to primarily focus on queer and BIPOC and women in horror, but with, like, an indie priority. And not to say I don't still read, because, you know, I love me some Clay, I love me some Grady and Rachel Harrison and all those people. But yeah, if any indie person, especially if they're a woman or queer or BIPOC, approaches me about reading, I'm like, hell yeah, like, let's get you out there, because that's the least I can do with a platform.
100%.
Yeah. So, and again, not to sound like I'm tooting my own horn, because I just have I've had people tell me, oh, I read this because you told me it was good. So that's a little bit of power to use for good, I think.
Yeah, I've had people say similar things like, hey, like, I read this book because you recommended it and XYZ. And I'm like, oh, so people are paying attention to what I say on the internet.
Yeah, and people like Grady Hendrix, again, do not need me necessarily recommending his books because he's got this, he's got this. I'm not worried about it. So I want to use that for uplifting people that don't maybe have that. So that's, if you're listening and you're like, well, why should I worry about reading women? That's why, because you don't know what your power of your voice can do until you use it for that purpose. So, yeah.
And also, like, you're just really limiting yourself if you're, like, only reading, like, another big thing that I see about arguing in the community is, like, people who don't want to read books about characters that they can't, like, project themselves onto. And I'm like, you're really, like, limiting your experience. Like, it's fun to get into the head of a character who has, like, a completely different life than what you live. Like, it's gotta be boring, like, just reading the same stuff, like, all the time. Like, expand. You'll find new stuff that you'll like, probably.
Yeah. No, you will never know until you try. I never got that argument anyways because, like, listen, I'm in my head all the time. I don't want to be reading about somebody that's similar to me. Right. Like, I've had enough.
I don't want to be me. I want to be this other person for a little bit.
No, and I think that's why, like, my daughter, my oldest daughter, is reading. She likes, like, Heartstopper and, like, more like romance, young people, stuff like that. And it kind of kills me because I'm like, ugh, like, don't you want to read horror? And she will sometimes, but, like, she primarily likes stuff like that. And she was talking to me about a series, and I was, like, telling her my opinion that she didn't ask for. Like, I don't like romance because the romance portrayed in, like, the modern romance books is not believable. It's not realistic to me. And maybe I have, like, a chip on my shoulder. Yeah. But then I was thinking, like, I read stuff about freaking, like, crazy parasites and demons and ghosts and stuff. Like, so really, that's not really a good excuse, but.
And you're like, I can't talk because the stuff that I'm reading about doesn't happen either.
No, yeah. So it's just funny that, like, I'm over here and I'm like, you know what? I'm, like, putting myself in check here by, I'm not going to poo-poo on her parade because she likes that. That's makes me sad because I want another horror buddy, but, it's all right.
People like what they like. There's people who probably look at us and are like, what the hell is wrong with you guys?
Oh, I'm certain of it.
Pick up ACOTAR, stop reading the weird shit. So, like, we all have our biases. I'm sure we all accidentally judge other readers when we shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Because we don't want anybody to yuck our yum, so.
Yeah. It's funny, too, because now people, like, so I work in a school as a teacher, and it's high school and middle school, and so I don't bring up stuff like that there. But one of my coworkers was like, did you guys know Miss Craig is a writer, and she writes stuff, and she likes spooky stuff, and that the other people were like, oh, really? And I'm like, yeah. I don't know how much I can say about that, but like, be cool, you guys. Don't take this weird. So I didn't really, like, tell them, but it's just funny, like, trying to explain to people. I would rather just be like, oh yeah, Stephen King, like, that's understandable to them. Not like, it's me, Charlie. Like, I'm not going to explain the plot of that. So
I've had, like, non-reader friends or people who do read, but they don't read, like, horror past Stephen King, like, ask what I'm reading. And I'm like, okay, but as a preference, remember, I read some really weird shit, okay? Like, you can't judge me as a person, please.
Disclaimer. Like, when I say I love cannibalism, I don't mean I actually love to eat people. I'm
laughing because Jesse, my fiance, like, he always, like, and will yell at me because I read a lot of books about cannibalism, and he's like, you need help. And I'm like, listen, you know me. I'm not eating people.
No.
I just think it's fun to read about.
No, I think I said, like, in my wrap-up for February, I read The Considerate Cannibal by Kimberly Nicole, and I loved it. And I was like, I love cannibalism. And I was like, okay, wait, let me say, I love cannibalism in theory, but not in action, like in practice. So
I have never eaten a person, but
yeah, I like to read about it. So it's definitely it's something that I think that's why I love our community too, and the people within it, because you can talk about things like this and they're like, I get it. I feel you.
I'll just be like weird little freaks and like no one's ew.
No, I love that. Is there anybody else you wanted to shout out or mention before we?
I think we covered all the bases. You guys shouted out some authors that I had on my list last week, so I think I got, everything that I had ready to go has been touched on.
I think you did a great job. I'm glad you kind of like took notes, because I didn't even think to tell you like, hey, here are the people we talked about. I know.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure that I wasn't sitting here like literally rehashing the same stuff you guys already talked about.
Yeah, because Asia did amazing. She came like super prepared. I was shocked. I loved it. But also I think I'm gonna have a chat for anybody listening, and just to tell you because I'm excited. But AuthorCon, I think Sonia and I are gonna chat at AuthorCon. So,
are you guys gonna live stream that one or film it?
I don't know. Anything? I wonder if we should. I don't know. I don't like being on camera that much. Like, it's weird that I like to be on TikTok, but like I don't like to be, I don't know, yapping on camera that much.
Yeah, where it's raw and unedited.
Yeah. I'll ask Sonia what she wants to do, but like I thought it'd be fun to be like, we're at AuthorCon right now, and let's talk about women in horror. And then also I could mention whatever women that I see at AuthorCon. That would give me some, people to talk about as well. So
yeah, that would be really cool. I would be interested in seeing that.
Yay! So if you're listening, check out that probably maybe next week. But thank you for being on here, Heaven, and being my friend and being amazing.
Thank you for having me. And thank you for also being amazing.
Of course, anytime. A huge thank you to Heaven for being on the podcast with me. Go follow her. Check out all her recommendations.